Welcome back to another episode of The Painful Purpose, a platform where we discuss the different philosophies of mental discipline and engage with some of the most exceptional minds to unravel the paths and principles taken in their pursuit to mental mastery. Today, I'm joined with Riley Wright, a 21-year-old endurance athlete and full-time college student at the beautiful University of Colorado Boulder. Riley abides by the standards of hard work and consistency and is truly an inspiration to me because of the work ethic, the success, and the wisdom that he possesses at his current stage in life. Riley, thanks so much for being here, bro.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
I just wanted to start by kind of addressing the your response to the news I shared with you regarding my failure to get into Boston.
Yeah.
So I shared that news with close friends, 5 to 10 people, and the response I got from almost everybody was the response that I would initially think to give, right? Which is oh, dude, I'm so sorry. You work so hard. You're going to get it next time.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what you said?
Yeah. So that's a funny story because right before you texted me, I had been on Instagram and I was looking at the Boston Marathon page and they had posted about the time cutoff, and it was a pretty big one this year compared to the previous 2 years. It was, 5.5 minutes under the qualifying standard. So what Daniel wanted was to run under 3 hours, and that should have gotten him into the Boston Marathon based on his age group. But there's a lot of people who want to go run the Boston Marathon. It's you have to be as far under the qualifying standard as you can. So it was 2 hours, 55 minutes around there when you ran 257?
257. Yeah, I learned that they had 34,000 people enter and there's a field size of 30,000. So I'm okay, that means they're cutting out 4,000 people. But what I didn't realize is that actually of the 30,000, 22,000 people are people who actually enter that way, and then they leave 8,000 for charity. So that's why over 11,000 people got cut this year, because it's not really a 30,000 person pool, it's 22,000. So yeah, so it was you had to run 254.30.
Mm-hmm.
And I ran 257.
5.5 minute cutoff,
right? Which
is pretty big.
It is
big.
But
so I had been scrolling through Instagram and I was scrolling through the comment section of the post, and you got a lot of people oh my God, this is terrible. I've worked my ass off for my Boston qualifier. I've been doing this forever. Why don't they just let more runners in? And then I was getting pissed off. I was what? This is the Boston fucking Marathon. This is the world major marathon. And
the oldest race in history.
We've got probably I'd say 90% of the people in the comments being this is unfair. This is stupid.
Right.
They didn't tell us it was going to be this big. And I was and then you texted me and you had just sent me a screenshot of the email from
notice of non-acceptance,
the association or whatever, being sorry, you ran a great time or whatever, but it was a large field size, and you didn't make the cutoff. And I was I texted you back. I was good, fucking work harder, dude. Next year, let's run it, because I had also been shooting for a Boston qualifier and I did not come anywhere near it. So I also want one, but
right. Well, you chose a really tough one. Yeah. You put the odds against yourself.
I did, but I wanted to or not. But I texted you and I was dude, good. Let's work harder. Let's do it. Let's go as far under 3 hours as we possibly can. Good. We didn't make it good.
Exactly. No, you said you failed. Good. Work harder.
Yeah.
And I love that, because that's the type of surrounding that I look for, right?
Uh-huh.
The idea of iron sharpens iron.
Exactly.
You don't want to be surrounded by people who are going to be it's all right, maybe next time.
Yeah.
It's dude, you could have done obviously there especially in running, there's limitations. Some things just take time to to build endurance, but
exactly.
You still want to always have that mindset of I can do more.
Exactly.
Right?
But you got to give yourself some grace. Dude, you're in a 257 marathon. That is something that 99% of the people on this earth will never achieve, and that's incredible. True. But that just goes to show you how talented and how hardworking some people actually are.
Yeah.
In the top 1% is a large field of people.
Absolutely.
And it's an honor to be up there, but you got to work hard. It's not lonely at the top.
No.
The top is filled with a bunch of hardworking motherfuckers who are crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I hate the saying, slow and steady wins the race, because no, dude, there's going to be one crazy dude out there who's going balls to the wall the entire time.
Right.
And,
Absolutely.
like, you're not going to beat that guy going slow and steady.
No.
You go fast and steady, and you win the race.
Right. Yeah, you got to have a good plan. So, when I first met you, like 2 years ago, and maybe this is just because we weren't as close, but I didn't really recognize like that like mindset and that lifestyle that you live by now. Is that something that has come to you more recently? Like, where did that shift happen?
Yeah.
Or have you kind of always been...
So we met my freshman year of college.
Correct.
On the tri team.
Right.
We probably interacted most at swim practice.
Yeah. Yep.
And personally, prior to being on the triathlon team, had never like really like swam in my life. I obviously like knew how to swim. I go to the beach a lot. Like, I love swimming in the ocean.
Oh yeah,
but
I thought the same thing.
Swimming in a competitive pool is totally different. And I had been a runner my whole life.
Okay.
And I came to school my freshman year, like, I want to try something new. So I tried the tri team. And in that pool, we kind of met, and I sucked at it. I was really bad. Like, I remember the first swim practice. It was like a Monday night swim practice, and I was like, okay, first day triathlon team. Let's see. And I remember swimming, like, we were doing the warm-up. He was like, all right, Coach Dave. He was like, dude, like, 10-minute easy swim, warm up. And I was like, dude, this feels like the workout.
Right.
Oh my God. And I felt humbled because
Absolutely.
for the last 7 years of my life, I was like one of the top guys on my high school running team. And then I just come to college and was like, dude, let's get my ass kicked on the fucking warm up.
Right.
Like,
you're used to being like in the head of the pack.
Yeah. And I was
we're
like,
we're in lane 7.
So you got 8 lanes in the lap pool, and like, the lower lane you are, the faster you are, kind of.
Right.
And we were in lane 7, so that just goes to show you we were in the pretty like.
Right. You had all like Ben Benton and all, like all those good kids on like lane
like
1.
Pro triathletes in the lane 1 swimming like 4 times the speed I am. I feel like I'm like a fat slug in the pool, but I kept at it. I looked at the kids in my lane and was like, I got to beat these kids. I know that they're my teammates and I love them. And they're cool guys, and I like talking with them, but I want to get better. And we would have swim practice 3 times a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. Monday night, we had swim, and then Tuesday morning and
Thursday morning.
And Thursday morning at 6:15 a.m. And I had never really done anything like that in terms of like having to wake up pretty early in the morning and work out on a regular basis. Like, obviously a few times in my life I had just ran in the morning like pretty
you gotta
early.
Get up,
yeah. But now it's like, okay, if you want to go swim with the team, you got to get your ass up out of bed at 5:30 in the morning and walk across campus and go swim in the cold pool in Colorado when it's like 0 degrees out in January. It's not fun. It's not fun in the process, but it's also not fun knowing you got to go do it. Like, being like in your warm bed and be like, I got to wake up.
Yeah. And every day you're questioning,
and
like, is this even...
Yeah. It's like, look, I suck at swimming. Why am I doing this? But
yeah, it's so true.
You keep applying yourself to that thing. You keep hardening yourself to the same thing. It just becomes easy. It doesn't even become easier. It just becomes more natural.
Right.
You just keep doing it. And I didn't even realize I was doing that in the process. I was kind of like, just get up and do it, dude.
And is that something that you had, like that type of behavior and that mindset, was that carried over from high school, or do you think that... Not
really. I'm not going to lie, dude.
Okay, so like joining the triathlon team and getting that exposure to being like weak and not as strong in a certain thing that you're trying to get better at, that kind of started the ball.
Yeah, the ball started rolling.
Because I know you didn't have a bike.
Yeah, dude.
You had like a beater bike that they lent to you or something like that.
Yeah, no, so I bought like a commuter bike off some guy off Facebook Marketplace that I had planned on just riding around campus and getting around town. Like, I was a freshman, I didn't have a car, still don't have a car, but I was like, oh, this will work. Ouch.
Yeah.
Rode up
our first time trial.
Oh no, I was on a good bike for that.
Okay.
I got like a lender bike from Coach Dave.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah. Like, so basically the whole sport, but outside of the running aspect, was completely new to me on every level, from like an athletic level and like equipment level too. Like, I honestly think that the sport has a kind of high barrier to entry because you've got to have a bike. Bikes
Absolutely.
are expensive.
Yeah.
There's a lot of upkeep that goes along with a bike. A lot of things you got to learn how to do with the bike.
Helmet,
gloves, goggles, gear, kits. Bike kits are expensive. They're like,
It's crazy.
it's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
It's
Yeah.
like $200 for like a tri-racing kit. I was like, dude, I would run in like $10 running shorts all through high school. But I didn't realize I was doing anything special, and I think that's what really helped me.
Okay.
No one, because I didn't have anyone in my life telling me I had to go do this. It was kind of something I wanted to do myself,
Okay.
and I think that's really, really what led me to where I am now. Because I didn't do it for anyone else. I did it for myself, and I did it because I liked it. I like the tri team. Like, I like the camaraderie of the
Absolutely.
team. Like, you're there 6:15 in the morning. You know, everyone who is there wants to be there to some degree.
Right.
It's not like a Monday night swim at 7:00 and you can just meander up and
Right.
go swim,
Or like a solo swim, whatever.
or a solo
whatever it may be.
swim, like at your convenience at any time of the day. Like 6:15, you're there because you kind of want to be there.
100%.
You might not want to be there, but deep down you do, and that's where the discipline comes in. And I think just by doing that over and over, only 2 times a week. That's crazy. Like, any other day of the week, I was waking up, I don't know, 7, 8 o'clock.
Yeah. Roll
But-
out of bed. Get
Yeah,
going.
exactly. But that just goes to show you 2 times a week, like, dude, you can make so much progress with like just being persistent in what you want. Just keep stacking it.
Absolutely.
And I started to get more comfortable like in the pool. I showed up the first day of practice in board shorts. I didn't know any better. I was like,
wearing bike shorts, dude.
that's honestly that's probably better.
It was
probably better than what I was doing.
more aerodynamic.
A little more aero. Yeah, but like I said, like the barrier to entry, I felt like almost like stupid, if that makes sense. I showed up the first, like, no one made fun of me. Like, it was like very accepting team, and there was like a few other kids in board shorts too, and like swim trunks, like wearing my 5-inch like American Eagle board shorts with like flamingos on them, but with like a netting in them. But one of my best buddies, he was a swimmer in high school, and he actually gave me one of his like swim trunk, like half tight swim trunks, and they felt good. So that's another win right there. But started wearing those. I got a swim cap. I had goggles the first day, but not a swim cap, and I learned quickly you need a swim cap, and especially if you have long hair like I do.
Right.
It kind of sucks. And so the season started like the end of August, like when the semester started, and we had our first time trial. It was a 500-yard time trial, early October. So after about, I don't know, maybe 6-7 weeks of practice, I was like, oh, like really finally put to the test of like, what can you actually swim? And I went in to that swim, like it was in the morning. We were planning on doing a swim, bike, and run time trial, like to simulate like an actual race, but just broken up, like not back to back to back like a real race would be. That was my first test. That was my first like race since that spring when I had been in like high school track.
Okay.
And I was excited because I felt like new to the sport. I felt like I couldn't fail, you know, because I had never been in like a swim race in my life, and I think that mindset really helped me.
Definitely.
Because that mindset of like, I can't fail if I just go out there and like work my ass off for 500 yards. And I even like know what to expect. I had like no set point of how fast I should swim or what was even good. I didn't have any like
a baseline.
I had no baseline for how fast kids would be swimming a 500-yard swim. And I went out there and I swam at a good effort, and was really pleased with how I swam. I don't even really like remember
Like the time, like
my time.
Right.
I think I was like around like 8.5 minutes or something. I don't know if anyone listening understands that in terms of like swim terms, but it's not the fastest. It's really not. I personally haven't swam in like 6 months, like in a lap pool now. I could probably swim faster, but I was proud of myself. I was proud of myself for just showing up and like swimming and like racing. Like it was just a team time trial, but like I was with someone in my lane. There were
Right.
people watching.
That's
the coaches were watching. I was
That's
like,
true.
I'm a freshman. Like, I'm gonna go and fuck some shit up.
Right.
Like,
Absolutely.
I'm gonna go balls to the wall today. And that, like, I was really proud of myself. And just through that process, and that's the positive feedback loop. You get a small win after 7 weeks of not really maybe thinking I've made much progress. Then I'm like, okay, I gotta keep going. It's only mid-October. So, like, you go through the fall, and I keep doing this, and
Right. Because we did Oktoberfest.
Oktoberfest and Pumpkin
And then
Man.
we did Pumpkin Man. We went to Nevada.
Yeah, I actually did not race my fall semester.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
So that also probably helped me in triathlon as well. So we have 2 big team fall races in the fall semester. We have a race in mid-September, Oktoberfest. It's a sprint triathlon, which is like half the distance of what we like usually race, which is like Olympic distance. And I volunteered at that because you need volunteer hours for the triathlon team, and that was like 3-4 weeks into the season. I was like, I just want to watch a race, get some experience. Glad I did that. I never watched a triathlon. It was good to like learn. But and then I was planning on racing in late October at Pumpkin Man, and I got like really sick the week of, like bad strep throat, and just couldn't race. Bummed, but shit happens.
So, do you think that, because what it seems to me like that you're saying is putting yourself in a new situation, like you said earlier that you kind of felt stupid, but it's part of that idea of branching into the unknown.
Yes.
And like not knowing what you're going to get out of it, right?
Exactly.
Like when I first got into triathlon, I had no idea what it was going to do for me in regards to just accepting the idea of like, okay, I'm going to go participate in this race, and then moving to Colorado 2 weeks later, and then joining the triathlon team, and then like meeting all these people, getting proper coaching from like Coach Dave and Coach Brad, and then learning about running, like really diving. It's like it's all branched off from like one decision, right?
Yeah.
So do you think that that's kind of what brought you to starting to condition this mindset of, like the early mornings, pursuing big goals, like right now you're preparing for an ultra marathon, like things like that? Do you believe that it was all catalyzed through that one step forward through triathlon?
I really do. It's a step into the unknown, and when it feels scary to jump, that's when you gotta fucking jump, dude. That's when you gotta, like, it's a leap of faith. You don't know what's gonna happen on the other side. Like, the process through that jump is gonna probably be painful, scary, to some degree, like, or another, whether it be mental, physical, obviously, if you're training for something. But it's what comes out of the other side. Those fruits of your labor is what really matters. But you gotta learn how to like that leap of faith, and you gotta learn to recognize when to do it, and that's really important. And obviously, I'm 21 years old. I'm probably gonna have a lot more of those in my life.
Absolutely. But the thing that I appreciate with you, and like one of the goals with this channel, was to create a platform where people who aren't, I look at my idols like David Goggins, Andy Frisella, these people like Cameron Haynes, relative to us, they're older, and I want to be able to surface people like yourself where you're 21 years old, you're still figuring it out. I'm still figuring it out, but you've like recognized progress, and like you've seen the fruits of your labor, as you said. And I'm also like curious because, like you said, it's you get that positive feedback loop where you feel the benefit of like all your work, and it becomes addicting.
Yeah.
Do you see that translating to other pieces of your life, like with school and with like extracurriculars? Because one of the things that I respect about you so much is your wisdom and like your work ethic at your age, right? Because I look at the lens of my life. When I was 21, I was just fooling around, like totally not focused, not taking care of myself, not waking up at 5 a.m. to go and crush runs like you do. And I just want to know, like, does that translate to other things that, like, have you recognized your ability? Because with my lifestyle now, it's easier to do the things that I don't want to do all the time. I think that's the transferability from sports.
Absolutely.
And I don't know, like, being in college, it's like school. You're forced to do shit you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Like study for this thing that you don't really understand why you're doing it. Like, what is the point of me learning this? Do you feel that that's improved since you started college, since your freshman year?
Absolutely. It really does translate into every area of my life, which is at the root of it why I run now. Obviously, I like training for things. I like goals in terms of numbers and everything. Like, I feel like everyone does to some degree, but I really do it for my mental health. When I wake up early in the morning and I go on a run, even if it's just an easy run, short workout, you just feel better throughout the day. You feel like you've started your day with a win. And then it's easier to be like, okay, let's go get another win. Because when you wake up in the morning, at first it's like you don't want to go do it. But once you get over that, it's just, you got to look at it in the perspective of the whole day. When you overcome that 1 minute sense of, fuck this, I want to go back to bed, you feel good. And then you're out there and you're running and it's dark out and it's getting cold. Winter is coming.
You have you're stacking the reasons not to go, right?
Stacking the reasons not to go, but it's just like, that's why it's going to be so much more helpful after. The harder it is, the less you want to do something, the more benefit you'll get from it.
Absolutely.
And that is the like foundation of why I exercise now, because it translates into every other area of my life. You can't say you are the best at everything, because no one is, but you can strive to be excellent in everything you do, and you won't be the best. I'm a completely mediocre runner compared to people that I run with or that I look up to sometimes. But for me, I'm the best I've ever been.
Right.
And that's all that matters. And
that's what I was going to say. Like, being the best version of yourself.
Exactly. And that's what people need to understand more. Like, dude, stop comparing yourself to other people. Use other people to inspire you. Like, dude, people are like genetic makeup, how long you've been doing something, so many factors outside of what you can do influence how good people are compared to you. And that person might think they're shit at what they do. You don't know. And you just got to be proud of yourself for doing what you do and just being, the 1% better every day thing.
Definitely.
Like, just do something that makes you feel good every day. Help yourself out. Like, show up for yourself. That's what I do when I go run. I show up for myself because I know when I wake up in the morning and I run or I lift or I swim, I'm being the best version of myself. I'm making myself available to other people. I feel great when I do that. Like,
right.
I feel like I can give more to other people. And I really feel like that's how we as humans should strive to be more open to other people, give more to other people.
And you have to have the energy, right? Like,
exactly.
I feel that you have an edge too. Like, when I get to work, because now I'm like, out of college, like starting the workforce, I noticed that, like, even like if it's not real, like if it's not real, like you can perceive that you have an edge over everyone. You're like, you're still trying to get there. Like, I've already been up, I've already got it done.
Yeah.
And I'm also a believer, and I want to get your thoughts on this, that I posted a Strava the other day about like my theory on like the time of day to do things.
Yep.
Like I'm always looking for challenges, but I don't want to make things like incredibly hard all the time. And what I'm trying to say is I'm going to try to get the run done in the morning, because it's easier to run in the morning than it is to run in the afternoon.
I agree.
Because in the morning, like you said, you're out there, you're waking up, like your body's still trying to, like your mind, I guess, is still trying to get adjusted to like what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And to do that after a full day of, like, the other thing is when you're running in the morning, there's nothing on your mind, like nothing's influenced you that day.
Yeah.
So like you're just focusing on your workout, especially like when you're doing, as you're training, you're doing intervals, you're doing like specific workouts. Nothing's distracting you. There's nothing else on your mind. You haven't seen something, you didn't have an interaction that is just influencing your behavior. That's going to produce a much better workout versus trying to go through your entire day, give other people your time, and then save time for yourself at the end of the day, and energy as well. And that's something that I noticed, like when I run in the morning, my days are typically better, and like I'm able to get the work done prior versus waiting to run later at night, and then the whole day just seems to, like, because when I get off of work, then I'm like, oh dude, I gotta go run.
Yeah, you're tired.
8 miles. I'm like,
You're
dude,
tired.
this does not sound fun.
Does not sound appetizing.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So do you think that, because I know that you have a coach now, or like would you say he's a mentor or a coach?
Coach.
Okay.
So Coach Will Thomas.
Okay. So
Built by Will. Check us out.
Built by Will. Yeah, absolutely. We'll shout him out.
Shout us out.
As
Go.
necessary. One of the things that I have begun to realize is the ability to leverage resources around you whenever you are like stuck in a rut and you're spinning your wheels. So how long have you been working with Will?
Since the start of this year. So at this point, 9 full months.
Okay, so similar to like with my coach Rick.
Yeah.
Because I started in like December 30th. I'm like, next year I want to qualify for Boston. So I'm gonna find a coach and try to start running, because I wasn't nearly as like strong and like aerobically fit as I am 9 months later with the coach. But how do you think that having your coach in your life has impacted your performance and like just leveraging a resource around you? Especially, he doesn't live here, is that correct?
He does not live here. I've never met him. We just talk through text, through phone, through FaceTime, whatever. He's gotten me into like weightlifting. That's why I hired him as a strength coach and nutrition coach. He's helped me out in ways I can't even like explain in words, because I just feel 10 times better 9 months later in my life in every aspect of it, because he taught me how to fuel myself, to perform well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so crucial, especially in triathlon and
exactly
in long distance running. Fuel is the fourth sport.
It really is. Like
Coach Dave and Coach Brad would say.
It's nuts, man. How much food you got to eat, and it's not even how much food. It's what types of food. He's taught me so much about the different macronutrient groups, how to use them, how to time them. I really couldn't be more grateful. And he's also inspired me to want to become a personal trainer myself, because I want to help people feel good. I like that. Like, I like coaching. I like sport. It's such a fun life to live.
No, I in my experience with Rick, I've always been under this, like prior to like these past few years, that I can do everything on my own.
Oh yeah,
right?
Me too.
Like I can do it on my own. Like
I was stubborn. I know, but I still am stubborn.
Right. We still are. We're still learning, and especially with getting advice, like a mentor, and like having a resource to lean on when you're unsure about something, especially with training for a race you've never done, right? Like your marathon training. We both did our first marathon this year. You don't really know what to expect, and like for strength training too. I think I know what I need to do, but it's also one thing that I talk about with Rick is you're paying the coach so that you don't have to think about it, right? Like, I get to wake up in the morning, I check my training peaks, my workouts are there, so I don't have to wake up and think about, okay, what am I going to do today? And like that's something
takes out that decision fatigue.
Right, exactly.
Takes out that external factor of
right,
and that I won't do it. Maybe
and that can influence that can literally influence the ability to actually execute. Because if you're stuck on deciding what you're going to do, time's passing, and then you can get frustrated, versus having the plan and having the person to answer the questions, like that's a very valuable resource.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that is important for people to recognize is you can lean on people, like at least for me, and I think for you as well. I'm always happy to share knowledge and like be an asset for people. If you do have a question, don't be afraid to ask it. Like, even if like, we're not that close, like say you and I don't really know each other very well, but I know of you and I know what you do, and I respect that because you have knowledge and experience. To reach out and ask you a question, you're not going to not answer, right? You're going to be happy to share your knowledge and your input. And I think that's the beautiful thing about coaching, and like just leveraging your resources, especially like in a concentrated area like Colorado, where everyone is so talented, and like especially in triathlon, like we have so many professional triathletes that live in a 10-mile radius of where we are now, and
it's nuts.
Like like across all sports, like cycling.
We live in
running.
the mecca for endurance sports in the U.S.
Right?
Like we do, like us in Flagstaff, Arizona. It's incredible.
It's
inspiring, because you're out there running and you see these pro runners, pro marathoners hitting a 22-mile workout at like 5.5 minute pace. You're just like, all right, come on, let's go.
But you see them.
You see them, and you're
see
like,
the work,
and you feel a part of it. It's a big thing out here. I love it. I love the community. It's awesome.
It's true.
It's inspiring.
It's true. It's also interesting to, like, when I was tracking, like, last Boston Marathon, Emma Bates was training, and she's now gone private with like her Strava stuff, like her activity. She doesn't share it, but she used to post every workout, and she was doing, like, leading up to the race. I mean, she was doing 120 miles a week.
It's nuts,
and
man.
and for me, like, that was my goal, right? So I'm looking at her and I'm like, the race was in April, so it's January, February, March of this year. I'm watching her activity and seeing the work she's putting in, like taking notes of like the areas she's running, like simulating the elevation or the topography of the actual course, and that is so cool because then when, like you said, you see it, you actually know where they are going. Like you see the work. You don't just see them like today. We saw Kevin Kiptum run the world record. Like, I don't know what kind of training he's doing. Like,
No
you don't
clue.
really know
Yeah.
him. You just kind of see him show up. So you're like, oh,
That's cool.
But he's been
Yeah.
putting probably 130, 140 miles a week for months. And then the years of
The years
preparation
before
and,
that,
and
not even
sacrifices.
just the race day. Like, the race is, I think it's like a Muhammad Ali quote, but it's like the race is won far before I dance under those lights or whatever, like boxing terms.
Right.
But like, and that's true. Like, every second matters of every prep because you gotta stay in that zone. And it is like some people just don't understand what that takes, but you gotta make that jump and you gotta make it a lifestyle. I love this lifestyle that I live. I know that like here, it's pretty normal, I would say. Not normal, but it's not uncommon. But anywhere else, like even like my family, like I love them, but they're pretty like, oh my God, like you run every morning at 5 a.m., you're running 50, 60 miles a week. It's just a thing I do now.
Definitely.
It's just like you do it every day and it just becomes, like I said earlier, it's not easier. You just keep doing it, and it becomes second nature.
normalized.
It's
Right.
normal.
Yeah.
It's normal.
Yeah.
To loop that back into like how working out or exercise, like how it flows over into other aspects of your life. Like I've just recently learned, like with my running, like it's second nature to wake up at 5 a.m. and go run now, because I've been doing it every day for the past year at this point. So that's why I've carried over to my schoolwork. I was like, dude, studying for an hour for this subject, it seems really hard now and a lot, but if you just keep doing it every day, it's going to become second nature.
Absolutely.
Keep doing it, and that's kind of how it carries over. I just kind of learned you got to keep applying that stimulus, keep hardening that part of your mind just to do that. You just got to keep callousing it, keep smoothing it over.
Yeah, and I also think that to build on that point, environment matters a lot.
Oh
right?
my God, yeah.
So like you have like
Yeah.
your like personal ecosystem with like what's going on in your day, but it's also there's a huge impact with who you're surrounded by. So
Yeah.
if you're the only person, like let's say you got 3-4 roommates, you're the only person in the house that's running at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
But let's change the scenario, and you're in a house with 3-4 guys, and everyone is running at 5 a.m. And let me change that. Let's say that you're starting at 6:30, but
Okay.
everyone else is running at 5. You're going to start running at 5 too.
Exactly.
And that's like the power of, like I said earlier, like iron sharpens iron, and your environment and who you're surrounding yourself with is so impactful. And like you said, that is going to become the new norm, right? Because
Yeah.
everyone's getting up, everyone's doing it. That's your environment, so that's what feels normal. But of course, in the beginning, it's not going to feel normal because it's brand new and you're used to whatever you have been doing in the past, right? Like the first few swim practices, this feels super weird. I'm freezing fucking cold in the pool, and I'm wearing these tights and like I'm
Like
wearing
an
these
idiot,
goggles. They're
yeah.
fogging up. Like
I know.
I just have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
Right? Same thing too with going back to like triathlon. When I first moved out here, I had done a sprint triathlon, which was like I put like an asterisk next to sprint because the swim was 400 meters. A typical sprint triathlon's 800.
Yeah.
And of the 400 meters, half of the swim you could just run in the water because it was that shallow. It was like a lake swim,
Oh,
so
wow.
the tides were low. And so I moved out here, and I was like, okay, like I did a triathlon. I
Yeah.
cycled 13 miles, ran 4 miles, whatever, 5K. And then after the meeting, but because the triathlon team at CU has a lot of like affiliations, they had free entries into Boulder Sunset Triathlon,
Yeah.
which was an Olympic distance, which is twice the distance. So it's a 1,500 meter swim, which is 0.94 miles, almost a mile, 26-mile bike, and then 10 kilometers, like 6.2 miles. So I'm like, free entry, it's a $200 race. I'm like, okay, and I was just coming off the high of being like completing 75 hard, which I don't know if we've talked about that, but I'm on this mindset where I'm just crushing every goal that I'm trying to like put in front of me.
Yeah.
Right. Like, okay, I can do this. Okay, I'm gonna start cycling. Okay, I'm gonna start swimming. Okay, I'm gonna do the triathlon. So I was like, let's do it. Let me go out and race this Olympic distance. Okay, 1,500 meters isn't that bad. I've swam that in a pool. And I go out there and it's like the biggest slap in the face I've ever experienced, because that swim took me 56 minutes to do. I had never worn a wetsuit. I had like anxiety like through the roof, which was the biggest thing that I had to face, like learning how to swim properly, was in the open water.
Yeah.
Just being comfortable, not being able to stand and like swimming, because no one really, like, that was the thing you said earlier. You're like, oh, I went to the beach growing up. Like, I grew up in Florida surfing, and being like the ocean and the river were basically my backyard. And so I think to myself, oh yeah, I can swim. It's like, dude,
Open water
you've never
swimming's a new
been
sport.
out.
It's scary.
You've never
It
been out
is.
in the water for that period of time without experiencing like some sort of anxiety. So to go back to what we're talking about, like putting yourself into like a new situation where you're uncomfortable, for me that was the biggest, like the beautiful component of triathlon for me, because it taught me like, put yourself in an uncomfortable situation and learn how to persevere through it, and like leverage your resources. So like having Coach Brad and Coach Dave, they were a huge impact on, like they made a huge impact on how I was able to overcome that. Because by the time, because we did Oktoberfest, which was a sprint, and it was 800 meters. That was a tough 800 meters. That felt like the whole race right there. And then, so that was August was Boulder Sunset. A month of training, still wasn't there, but I was a little bit better. Got through the swim. And then a month after that, so 2-3 months of training with the coaches through swimming and being consistent and showing up, we went to Pumpkin Man in Nevada, and I had signed up for 70.3 in December. So I'm thinking, the Olympic distance is 500 meters shorter than the actual 70.3 swim, which is the beautiful thing about that race, because you can really get quality training there and experience. And my thought is, the race for me is the swim. Like, I don't care about the bike. I mean, the Pumpkin Man course is
hard.
Super rough on the
Really
bike,
hard.
and my chain ended up breaking. So I didn't even finish the race. Like, I was 5 miles into the bike, and my race ended. I was like stranded because my chain snapped. So, but the thing is, I got through that moment, right? I broke through that barrier, and then I built confidence there, because now I'd done the swim, and I like seen my progress, and I'd become successful with overcoming that fear. And now 2 months later, going to that 70.3, I had like what Goggins talks about, like going to the cookie jar and like going back and remembering, like, okay, I've done this.
I love that analogy.
Like I've been here before. Like I love to say that when I'm running and I'm doing hard pace, like, dude, you've been here.
Like you've been here.
You've been in this moment
what it feels
before.
like, bro.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly. It's the same type of thing. So I think about just what we're talking about with putting yourself in those bad situations and being uncomfortable and really like persevering through that, and like talking about the early mornings. Like, yeah, it sucks, dude. Every morning it sucks. Like we've created a standard now where, at least for me, if I don't wake up at the typical time, like if you're, let's say, you typically, you're always out earlier than I am, but let's say, for example, you missed that, like you missed it. You planned for it and you didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like shit.
You feel like shit.
Right.
You feel guilty.
You feel guilty.
You feel like
Right.
you feel like you cheated yourself. Like you could have, like, unless some huge external factor played into you not being able to wake up and get your run in or your workout or your planned event in the morning, and you just chose not to do it for the sake of, I don't want to fucking do this, you feel terrible. And that the pain of discipline will always be better than the pain of regret. And that is one of my favorite sayings ever, because damn, dude, discipline is not fun. It fucking sucks in every aspect. But after, I feel damn good. But that pain of regret, that just carries over the rest of the day. It's just hanging over your head.
Definitely.
And you can't reach it because it's past.
Right. There's so many good sayings that are related to that. Like the feeling of failure doesn't nearly hurt as bad as like the feeling of regret.
Yeah, risk over regret.
Right.
Anytime.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of my favorite quotes is by Matthew Johnson.
I don't think so.
He's a big endurance athlete,
Okay.
based out of Texas. But
Okay.
so he did Leadville 100 a month and a half ago,
Okay.
and he had failed the previous year, and he ran it back this year, and like he went through a big prep, like was really fucking motivated, and he crushed it. Like he went up to his goal, hit a home run. That's that. And then he set the bar even higher. He wanted to do 4 100-mile races 4 months in a row, 4 consecutive months. So just last weekend, he was going to do a second one. And mile 73, he like snapped his fucking IT band. He was like, I don't regret anything. I did what I wanted to do.
Right.
And yeah, he failed. Like on paper, he failed. But that just inspired the hell out of me. I was like, dude, who cares if you fail? Show up. He didn't fail because he didn't.
Giving up.
Yeah, he didn't give up, dude. He failed because his leg wouldn't move. Like, that's badass. Like, I want to be that guy who's like, I didn't finish because my body won't let me. His mind was there, and I think that's all that matters. And that's a really inspiring message to any aspect of your life.
Yeah.
Like,
because it's transferable.
That's my mentality with school. I'm not the best test taker. I'm a good student. I study. I do my homework, but like I don't have incredible grades, and I never have in my life. But something that like my mom, love my mom. Shout out to my mom. But
Shout out to all moms.
Shout out to all moms. Something that she taught me growing up was like, she was like, Riley, I don't care how good you do on this test. As long as you give everything preparing for it and you get what you get, like, you can't be upset with yourself. And that really just took off so much stress for me. Because, like, I hated growing up and, like, seeing other... Because I didn't have this in my house. I grew up in a very, very awesome household. Very accepting, loving parents. And they would never, like, get mad at me for doing bad on a test in school. Like, they wanted to help me out more. And I would see, like, other kids in school, like, stressing out because they're like, oh my God, my parents are going to kill me if I get a C on this test or whatever. And I would just feel bad for them. I was like, dude, that's not how it should be. Like, why are you 15 years old stressing about some, like, math test? Like, dude, try your best, learn, study, and move on.
Yeah.
Like, and that's my mentality in school now, and it's with everything now. Like, that was with my marathon. I went through a grueling 10-week prep. It was a quick prep, but like 10-week prep is short for a marathon. You usually aim to do like 14 to 16 for like a full prep, and I did 10, and I worked my ass off in those 10. And then race day came. I gave my everything, and it was way off my goal. But I was like, I can't be mad at myself, man. I showed up every day for 10 weeks, and I put in the work, blood, sweat, and tears. Like literally tears. I fucking cried on race day mid-race. It hurt so bad. And, like, I cried when I crossed the finish line because I did not think I'd be able to do it at one point in that race. I was like, man, I just got to have the grace to go forward. And that's just something that I cultivated growing up from my parents. And that just goes to show you your influences, your motivators, the people around you really, really mold you, whether you like it or not, which is a shame, which is kind of like, it's not that it's a shame, but it's like, it's kind of like fate, you know? Because some people, you can't really choose to some degree. You can't choose who your parents are.
Right.
You can't choose who your friends are and who you spend your time with at some point in your life. Whether you like that idea or not, you can, but
you can
gotta
choose
surround yourself.
Right. You can choose how you want to perceive it, right? Like you can play the victim, like how Goggins looked at his situation. You know, he's like, I can either like lean on these things and let it be my excuse, or I could not let it be my excuse.
Exactly.
Right. And going back to the thing you were talking about with people who get super stressed about things in the short term, right? Like the kid in school stressing about the test. I don't know if you know Alex Hermosi. He's like an entrepreneur, and
not familiar with him.
He talks about you know, if it doesn't, like when I'm in that moment, I have to think to myself, am I gonna worry about this in 10 years?
Exactly.
If I'm not gonna worry about it in 10 years, I'm not gonna worry about it now.
Yeah.
And that's,
or even
like it's
literally a week,
right,
a month. It doesn't have to be 10 years.
Right.
It's like some things, like big things in your life, like 10 years, but like a test, a date, I don't know, just any like everyday life thing. It's like, dude,
right,
the world is so big and time is moving so fast. We are just monkeys on a organic spaceship
Yep.
flying through space. Nothing matters. And to me, that mindset is comforting. I'm not gonna lie.
I think there's an asterisk too there.
Yes.
Because
yeah.
you shouldn't worry about it if you tried your best, right? Like going back to what your mom
Yeah.
told you growing up. Like I don't think that's a productive mindset if you're not putting in effort, right? Because it's like, oh, well, like who cares about this job interview? Like it's not going to really matter in 50 years. It's like, well, you can think about that and you can have that mindset if you didn't get the opportunity, but you did try your hardest, right? Like, oh, who cares about this one workout because it's not really going to matter. It's like, well, if you put things against you and you didn't actually like prepare for it.
Exactly. Yeah. There is a big asterisk next to that. Yeah.
Right.
I agree with that.
Because like, well, I guess with school it's more relative. Like, oh, who cares about this test? It's not going to matter in 5 years. It's like, yeah, but
it plays into events that could be stack up through 5 years, compounding through 5 years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So right now, your next big race is the ultra marathon. Is that correct?
Yeah. It's a 50K race in December in Colorado Springs. Really looking forward to it, but it's funny because like I'm way less nervous for this than I was for my marathon, and it's like 4 miles longer. Like a 50K is like 30-ish
31.
miles. Yeah.
31.
So and a wild marathon we all know is 26.2. But it just goes to show you like I've been here before, like the whole like David Goggins like go back to the cookie jar thing. Like I know I've run 26 miles like in a race before. Like for some reason now the 30 does not seem daunting at all.
Yeah.
Now I'm still like 7 weeks out, so talk to me again in 5 weeks, 6 weeks, or I'm 1 to 2 weeks out. I might be feeling a little different.
Right.
But just right now I can like mentally visualize it so much easier than I can with 26.2.
Yeah.
Because before 26.2, the longest I had raced was a half.
Yeah.
Was a half marathon, 13. So,
which is like, as you're preparing for long distance, like for your marathon build, for my marathon build, we're running 13 miles every week.
I ran 13 miles yesterday.
Yeah. Like it's like a 90-minute run. It's not, or like 110-minute run. Yeah, like 2 hours.
Yeah.
And that becomes normalized, right? So, and you have people like my family, your family, they're like, you just ran 14 miles today?
Yeah.
Like what it,
but it's like, yeah, but I do it all the time.
It's like, but you get normalized.
I've worked up to it.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I have so much respect with you. Like when I look at, like we said about the power of the internet and like globalization and like being able to have a coach across like whatever, you get to see people. Like I could see Emma Bates, her information, like her runs. When I look at your training, your like historical graphs are just so consistent.
Oh, and dude, I love looking at the Strava graphs, dude. It's beautiful. I love it. I looking at everyone else's too. Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah, it's fun. It's
incredible to see how consistent you are, and that's one of the things that, like, do you think that's a byproduct of your coaching, or do you think that's something like related to just who you are? Because you win the day, you win the week, right?
Exactly.
Like that's kind of like the mindset that I go by, and I feel like you are. Oh, like when I looked at your last marathon build, you were so on the money. I was so confident in you, and the only reason you didn't run your sub 3 is because you ran the wrong course. Like you and me run that same course that I ran in August. You're going the same time, if not faster. And that's the thing is, what do you think that is contributed to with your consistency over like a long period of time, right? One of the things that we talk about on this show is like finding the sustainable fuel source for the long run, right? But with like everything, like the big picture, like this big race 9 months ago that you're building up for, it's broken up into small tasks. So how do you, like, what do you contribute all that to, like your consistency with your training? What do you think that's all catalyzed through?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and like I love that question because it's something I've learned the value of how to compound over time just in the past year with my fitness mostly, because it's something that I've just applied myself to more than ever. But I love the quote, consistently good, occasionally great. Because a lot of people think you got to go out there every day and have an A+ workout, PR, whatever.
Right, every race. It's got to be.
That doesn't happen, bro.
Right.
It doesn't happen. You're going to feel like shit most of the days. Like, like a Michael Phelps quote. He's like, I swim 365 days of the year. 300 of those days, I feel like fucking shit.
Right.
Like, and that's true. Or maybe not feeling like shit, but like you're not gonna feel like on your A game. But you gotta stack those C plus B minus workouts to get that A plus workout, that A plus race, that A plus day. Like, and it makes it easier, honestly, because half the battle, most of the time, just going out there and doing it.
Just getting there.
Kind of just going through the motions.
Put on the shoes.
Put on the shoes, tie your laces, and get out the door. And a lot of people don't know the value in that. They think like, and like through high school, I was nowhere near as good as a runner as I like could have been, because I would just shoot to have an A plus workout every time, would come up short and be discouraged, instead of just going at like, you know, the term like RPE,
Right.
like rate of perceived effort.
Right.
Just hit those 6s and those 7s, get those in, and then you'll get those 9s and those 10s on race day, on big prep workouts.
Right. And I think too, like you talked about earlier, like genetics and like hard work, and like some people are born with it, but I always think about, like, I look at like LeBron James. Like those people are genetically gifted.
Genetic freak.
However,
Michael Phelps.
Right.
Yeah.
However,
Tiger Woods.
it's all about reps.
Yeah.
Like
those guys.
LeBron wouldn't be LeBron if he didn't put in the time and the reps.
Yeah.
And like that's really where it shines, and how you can leverage the genetics plus the hard work, and that's how you become exceptional.
A lot of people in the fitness world use your makeup as an excuse, like, oh, my genetics
Especially
suck.
in the gym.
Especially in the gym. Like, bro, my legs are small because of my genetics. Like, no, bro, you gotta hit leg day. It's so frustrating to see people put that burden on themselves.
Right. It's a mindset thing.
It's like, dude, what are you talking about your genetics? Like, stop. Like, it plays a role. You can't deny it. It's a fact. It's a scientific fact. Some people are more gifted mentally, physically.
Right. Like
some people put on muscle easier.
6'7".
Yeah, so a
someone
6'7" football lineman is a genetic freak. He was born that way. He still puts in the work though. But
absolutely,
a lot of people, like everyday people in the gym, are like, oh, my genetics make it hard to lose weight or lose fat or put on muscle. It's like, dude, you gotta drop that mindset. That's not helping you at all. That's just a crutch that you're giving yourself. You gotta be like, you know what? I'm gonna be the best fucking person in my bloodline. Like you gotta have that mentality.
Well, true. I think that, again, we're going back to the idea of like mental discipline, and it's all about winning the battle in your mind, right? And that's like, your mind knows exactly what to tell yourself to not do it. Something.
Exactly.
Right? You wake up in the morning, you're like, well, it's cold, it's dark.
When you're running too fast, you're like, oh, this hurts, I should slow down.
Right.
This weight's too heavy, I might die. Like,
so you're always looking for those excuses, and it's like for this, like the topic of the gym, that's always a common one, because I'm looking at the other guys at the gym who look like they just have it, and oftentimes that's not the case. They've worked for it, and it's the first thing that we think about. Like, I think it's really important not to compare. Like, be the best version of yourself. Don't try to compare with one another.
Comparison is the thief of joy.
Right, exactly. But so many people just look at that person, they're like, oh man, like I could never be there.
I'll never be like that.
Right.
It's like, but it's so funny. It's fascinating how we've resort to that so quickly. How
how our minds
even
are
the
wired.
most disciplined, the most hard motherfuckers on the planet, they still deal with those thoughts, and it's just like a human thing that we kind of have to just accept and learn how to deal with.
It's true. I think it has to be some sort of generational, like, primary like way that we think about things and how we behave, and I think that's primal. That's the word I'm looking for. It's a primal response, the way that our brains work and the way that we think about how we perceive people and how we perceive ourselves. It's all relative to like our experiences and like you said, like the bloodline and like generations, and like historically, like there was always like a chief of a village, right? Like the leader, and that's the person that they looked up to, and he was the strongest, and whatever it may be. But in reality, if you just work on yourself and like you set your own goals, like I want to try to prove myself wrong and do this, you'll eventually get to the point where you can surprise yourself and like actually accomplish like incredible things. So yeah, I think that comparison is a tricky thing because you said you can use people as inspiration, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned that earlier, but you don't want to think of it as a way to like talk yourself out of something. Like, oh, like even with this podcast, right? There's so many reasons and so many times already I've thought, like, dude, I don't know if this is going to work.
Yeah.
And you look at like these huge podcasts out there, these people who are super successful, and you can either use that as a motivator or a discouragement. Like, oh, I'm never going to get there.
Yeah.
Or like, let me try to learn and let me try to see what they're doing. Let me try to figure it out.
Yeah.
And invest the time and the consistency to get it done. Because that's really what it comes down to.
Like, don't be a negative person, bro. Like a rising tide lifts all boats. Like,
right. Yeah, I love that one.
this big podcaster posts a new episode and instead of being jealous, instead of being envious and being like, oh man, he's getting so many views, so many listens, so many people are talking about his stuff. Be like, what's he doing? Cool. Like, I'm gonna watch it. His stuff's awesome. Like, so for some reason, it's like become like cool to like hate on something that's popular. No, man, drop the ego. Like, this shit's cool. Like I like it because like people like it for a reason.
Well, it's also having again, we talk about just how many resources we have nowadays with technology.
Yeah.
Being able to listen to incredible people that you don't really know. And that's the beauty of...
Probably will never meet in person.
Right.
It would be awesome to, but probably we'll never know.
And like with long format content, like a podcast, you can really understand somebody. And I think like for like using the Joe Rogan podcast, for an example, like having all those big names like Elon Musk and David Goggins, like you can really learn about this person and see like, oh, like, wow, that's how they communicate. That like they're real people. They're not just like political figures too.
Yeah.
Like Bernie Sanders was on the show and like learning about just like listening to these people.
Like you listen to people that you don't maybe not even like agree with or like that much. And that's why Joe's podcast is so successful, because he has so many different people on from so many different backgrounds with so many different views, and he just gives them a platform to talk. And that's why some people hate his podcast. That's why some people love it. That's why I like it. Like, cause I'll go and I'll listen to a podcast with Shane Gillis and they'll be talking about like funny shit. I don't know. And they'll be like drinking a lot of beers and it's like really funny. And then we'll be having like some deep conversation about like AI with like Lex Friedman.
Right.
And it's just like such a large like spectrum of hosts and just talking to people. And it really shows us how different humans are and how much we have to learn from one another. That's something I've been really trying to do lately. Is just talk to more people, meet more people, and just try to learn more things from people from different backgrounds, people from different perspectives. Instead of like, so like say someone's like, oh, like I don't believe that you like work like running's that like good for you, or I don't really like it's not a big part of my life like working out. I don't really think nutrition is that important. Instead of being like, oh, I kind of hate this person, like a bug's right at my face. That was
butterfly.
Funny. Yeah. Instead of like pushing that person away and like shunning that person, like I don't want to be around that person. Kind of just like, why do you think that? Like, be open about it. Be open to discussion about it. And it sounds corny to say, but the world will be a lot nicer place if people would just fucking listen to each other every once in a while.
Yeah, understanding different perspectives.
Everyone's been through different experiences that are so unique to the individual that cannot be remade. Just listen to people and listen to what they have to say. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to promote it. You just listen to it.
And just learning to, like you said earlier, like putting away the ego and what we talked about with coaching. It's like we all have a sense of ignorance. It's like, oh, I know how to do this, but you only know based on the experience.
Based on your personal experiences.
If you've studied it or if you've experienced it.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Like when you're talking about, like, there's a term called like divergent thinking, where you, like in an argument, like psychology, I'm looking at the other person's perspective. Like in an argument, let me try to like turn myself around and let me think about this from their point of view. And that's exactly what, you know, if you try to take situations that way and like learn about someone's beliefs or whatever it may be, you'll learn something new, and B, you could re-solidify your beliefs if like you understand like logically, okay, I thought about it in their perspective, they're like what pros and cons they're considering, and now I'm even more of a believer in the things that I believe in.
I believe in.
Right, exactly. But there's a sense of ignorance where if you don't try to practice that like that thought process, you're never gonna like proceed in becoming more wise or more solidified in the things that you're trying to preach or like your argument that you're supporting.
Like, you got to go meet new people from every area of the world, from different backgrounds. It's so good for learning about the world and just about yourself too. Like, I wish people would just be more open just to like talking to random strangers on the street. Like, people like out here, like in this part of the country, it's a lot nicer than like I'm from the East Coast.
Right.
People are a bit more closed-minded when it comes to that. It's like, shut the fuck up. Let me just like, I'm just getting to work. But like, and whatever. But like, still, like, for some reason, especially college kids, like, people are a lot less open just to being like open with one another, social, in terms of like, they think it's weird if you are like approached by a stranger and just like asked how your day was. It's like they're like been asked some like complex like math question and they're just dumbfounded. It's like it's weird. And it's like, why is it that way?
I don't know if it's a societal shift.
Yeah.
Especially with technology and like social media, it's easier to communicate without having to actually communicate in person, and that's I feel like that's a big contribution or contributor to like what you're talking about, and it should be normalized, because like what we have been preaching is you never know what you're going to get out of it.
Yeah.
It's like you might find a great friend. Like one of my best friends here in Colorado, his name's Devin. He came up to me at the end of the Broncos 7K race. Like, no idea who this person is.
Mm-hmm.
He just came up. He's like, dude, you crushed that race.
That's awesome.
And I was like, he's like, do you want a photo? I didn't have my phone or anything. So he had his phone with him and took a photo of me. And like, since that time,
It makes your day.
he's like become such a like large impact, because he works hard. Like he's the one that's doing the Javelina 100 in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And now I'm flying to Arizona to pace with him.
Yeah.
For the last 20 miles of the 100-mile race.
And now you're going to get that experience as well.
It's like all these branches from like one interaction. And that wasn't me. That was
5 seconds
That
of
was
courage.
the way that I responded, right?
Exactly.
Because I could have been like, oh, thanks, dude. No, I'm good. Like,
Yeah.
It's a huge branch of events and things in my life and experiences that I wouldn't have been able to have based off of like one decision.
Yeah.
And that's common, and like it's really difficult. Like we're talking about like today's age. We live in a comfortable time where it's really hard to like you have to look for challenges sometimes and look for opportunities, like walking up to people. And like that's what him and I talk about.
Man.
Is like
it's scary.
Just getting reps in.
It is.
And
it's
so
what
easy
I've been
to
trying
not
to
do
lately.
it. Right.
Yeah,
so
oh my
easy to
god,
not do it.
yeah. This is gonna be funny. Like, a little side tangent just with like my dating life. Really non-existent right now, but I'm just really trying to put myself out there more. And that's like, I'm 21 now, trying to go out more. I'm like, not like get hammered every weekend, but like just go out trying to like meet people at a bar, hang out.
That's true.
You learn some things from people, like from all different areas of the world.
I wanted to ask you, like, being in college, and this goes back to like my first question that I asked you on this episode, but it's so hard to be consistent with so many temptations. And like being in college, you're in that moment. Like when I look at my life, like I definitely fell victim to doing whatever I felt like I wanted to do and not doing what I had to do.
Yeah.
And like in college, there's just so much around you, especially here in Boulder, Colorado. There's just a lot of opportunities, a lot of like things that you can do that can get you off the tracks.
Yeah.
And so how do you balance that? Like, cause I see you're preaching a little bit about like trying to do it more. But is there like what kind of sparked that thought process?
It's a big thing with balance. I think everything in moderation. Like, it's obviously really good to wake up. Like, everyone, like, no one will like doubt the claim that like it's good to wake up early and run and work out a lot and eat healthy and read books and like meditate, stretch, like all that kind of like self-care, self-help stuff. But you also kind of gotta like dabble a little bit in that other side. I think the good only feels good because there is bad,
right,
in every aspect of this world. I wouldn't appreciate running early in the morning feeling great if I didn't wake up extremely hungover one morning. Like, that's what, like, I'm still trying to learn that. Like, find a good line. Don't restrict yourself too much from having a good time, but know when too much is too much.
Right.
There's obviously don't go like shoot up heroin. That's no, like don't go do drugs like that. But have a few drinks from time to time. Go smoke a J with your buddy. Like
Yeah.
it's fun. Like that's where you really like bond with people sometimes. And then you learn people. You learn from people. And it's something that a lot of people struggle with. Just finding that fine line. And I struggle with it. I'm not going to lie. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, I shouldn't go do this. I have to do this. But like,
You have to give yourself a little bit of a cushion.
yeah, especially if you're a pretty young person in life.
Right.
Like, dude, go out and meet people.
Right. Like you're in college. Like, now's the time to try those things and like build that experience, because there's not a lot of risk involved in like the downside, right? Like you don't have a family, you don't have responsibilities.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
like people who are dependent on you. And like I think, again, a big mission of this podcast is, or at least for like my mission is discovering the sustainable fuel source in life.
Exactly.
Like how do I do it for 20 years? How do I do it for 30 years?
Because that's how you're going to live a good life.
Right. And I think a big part of it is through moderation. And like you said, everything in moderation. And to build upon that, I would say everything in moderation, including moderation, which means you need to take breaks and you need to like moderate that consistency, because before long it becomes hard. Like this past month running has been really, really tricky because I've starting to feel like burnt out.
Yeah.
And I talked to my coach about it, and we've been pulling back on mileage because like with marathon training, it's 3-4 months of 50, 60, 70 mile weeks.
Yeah.
And when
it's
I look
not
at
only physically, but mentally draining as well.
Right. It's like I wake up and I look, I'm like, dude, I got to do another 60 miles this week. Like,
yeah,
broken up, like long runs. So being able to like last week I ran 30 miles, which was like 5 runs. I took 2 runs out of the schedule, and that was super great because I came back Tuesday and I felt refreshed, and like now I had a great week this week.
Yeah.
And like I think that's so important to, at least from what I've like formulated so far with trying to solve that problem of what's the sustainable fuel source, is like taking measurable breaks and like knowing when it's okay to like lapse back a little bit and enjoy yourself and go and like have like a sweet treat and go and have a few drinks with friends.
Exactly.
Like enjoy that moment and have that experience, because
it's
always a
it
trade-off.
recharges you.
Right.
It really does.
Right.
Like, yeah.
There's a trade-off, because you have to, like, one of the things that I've looked at this year too with training for the Boston qualifier was like, I'm in the same boat as you. Like I just turned 25 today. So I this whole year I've been 24, and
happy birthday, man.
Thank you. We're dating ourselves right now. But putting in perspective of like we're young, like we're, it's hard to meet people, but I've had to make like a lot of sacrifices. Like I'm not going out because I have my like morning runs. Like if I go out and drink, like I'm going to be screwed the next day.
Yeah.
Or like I don't want to run, like we said earlier, I don't want to make things incredibly difficult. So I'm going to run in the morning, but if I'm running at 2:30, that run's going to suck. Which is fine. Like sometimes you got to do that, but it's just really challenging because you're always like, when we set ourselves to these standards, you have to accept the fact, like, hey, you know what? It's okay. I'm not gonna do this. Like, not gonna take the prescribed.
Perfect 100% of the time, and that's in the end. That's why it's so good.
Right.
Like what I said earlier, it's like the yin and the yang thing. Like there's no light without the dark kind of thing. Like a good healthy meal doesn't taste so fresh and beautiful if you've never eaten way too much pizza.
Right.
Or
that feeling of like,
or feeling of waking up refreshed is not going to feel as like beautiful if you've never woken up really hungover or whatever. Like you kind of just, it's something, it's like a necessary evil in life. Kind of just got to do it. Yeah, it's a hard balance to find, and so many people struggle with it and they don't talk about it. And I wish we would better. I'm really grateful for this right now, because like it's something, like I said, like I struggle with it. I've been struggling with it because not a lot of people I'm not trying to like gloat or anything right now, but not a lot of people at my age are like training for marathons, not in the gym 5 days a week. Like,
yeah, no, it's true.
It's kind of lonely from time to time.
It
and
is. Like, the process is extremely lonely.
Yeah.
That's why it takes a lot of mental fortitude to get through it. And I also think to combat that like that chain of thoughts that goes through your mind when you're going through that moment. Like what I've thought is, you know, I want to, like, I believe this period of time, and like I'm talking like you're ahead of the curve right now. Like that's why I
Appreciate
respect
that.
you so much. 'Cause you
Appreciate
are
that.
ahead of the curve, 100%. And I just look at that because I only started this like after I got out of college.
Yeah.
You have like I'm trying to increase my value as a person,
Mm-hmm.
like through like physical, through mental, through spiritual like improvement. And I think that like there's a few things. Like first of all, I'm going to increase my value as a person, so I'm like therefore like a more valuable asset to bring to the table like when
Yep.
that time comes, right?
Exactly.
And then secondarily, I'm not going to meet the person that I want to be with like in that environment at like a bar or like something like
Yeah,
that. I just
no,
don't think, I mean it's of course it's possible,
possible.
but like cuz again, we all do it from
Anything's
time to
possible.
time.
Yeah, it's just like I could meet someone like myself who doesn't like. I don't really like going to clubs or bars too much. Like I like hanging out. Like I like having a few drinks, but I don't really like a party. Like I like kind
Right.
of chill, hanging out, having a few drinks, talking.
Absolutely.
Like, but you do never know.
But like in the case of like what we're talking about with running, like your chances of meeting somebody that and again, it the perfect person doesn't have to be doing the same stuff you're doing, but
Yeah.
if you guys can have a commonality and like a common understanding of like the benefits of being out there early in the morning and like you meet someone out there, like
Yeah.
that person, like I think the likelihood of a successful relationship is going to be much higher if you're with that if like you meet
Yeah.
someone who's already doing that stuff versus, oh, why are you getting out of bed like so early?
Yeah.
Like, wait, come hang out with
Like
me.
you said,
Oh,
you
we don't
gotta
want to go out.
surround yourself with
Right.
people with similar goals
And
and
understand you,
values and
or
understanding.
at least can support you, and
Uh-huh.
that's a big thing. So
Yeah, support you, lift you up,
yeah,
both ways. Like like I think it's really healthy in a relationship to have different opinions, different hobbies, different interests, but there's still a common ground of like a foundational thing of why this relationship exists and how we make each other feel better.
right,
Because in a healthy relationship, like it goes both ways. You both support each other. You both lift each other up. Not only in like a romantic sense, but just friendship too. Like you're friends with your friends because you have common ground somewhere.
right.
And you all share some common interest. But it's very healthy to go try something new. Go try a new sport, go try a new activity, try new whatever. It doesn't have to be a sport, like anything athletic. Like, I don't know, they might be into chess. They might be a really good
Yeah.
card player. Like
Right.
something like a niche.
Like rock climbing, whatever it may be.
Rock climbing, yeah, like something cool like that. It's like, yeah, no, like I'll go try that with you. And then they go try something with you. And you kind of both like support each other that way. And you both like learning new things and
Right.
growing as people together.
And when you say that, it reminds me of something that I talk about with my buddy Devin, which is like a run, like a 20-mile run by yourself versus a 20-mile run with someone with you. Like the power of good company, like how drastically different those
Yeah.
two runs feel. Like
Both the same distance,
Time,
both the same time, but
same
just
time.
it's different.
and like your actual like physical impact, because you're thinking about the run by yourself, you're like, oh dude, this pace sucks. Like you could have like more mental stress, and that can impact your body too. Like you look at your heart rate, it's higher, like because everything is just not as fluid and not as enjoyable. So I think the power of good company, like even with this podcast, like it's so much harder to talk one-on-one with the camera versus having a good conversation, and I think that's what makes time fly and makes things
Yeah.
like progress better. And I think that's when it comes to like finding a partner and finding like the right person for you, that's a big part of it, is making sure that you guys, you know, have your interests and like have the same understanding, but you have to support one another.
Yeah.
Like I think it's the same with friendships, like everything. It has to be, there has to be that common ground, and you can't become a conflict and be toxic and like
Yeah.
not want to support what they're pursuing, as long as it makes sense.
Rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah,
Like,
I love that.
It's
I love that.
such a good saying. I like it.
What do you think, like if I were to ask you, and of course if I were to ask myself this question at 21, my answer, I wouldn't even know what to say, but I'm curious. Like if I ask you, what do you think your purpose is, like in your life at this point, what would you say?
I'd say right now, what I'm trying to do in my life is figure myself out so I can help other people. Like I said earlier, I want to be a personal trainer. I want to coach I want to coach everyday people. I want to coach athletes. I want to coach everyone in between. And I think to do that, I need to figure out who I want to be and who I want to be with and the environment that I want to be in. Because I'm a junior in college right now, so I'm halfway through, but I have no clue where I want to live after I graduate in a year and a half. Like, I don't know. I have ideas, but I don't know.
Yeah, you just don't know where that path's gonna go.
Yeah, but like I really like where I'm at in life right now, because I feel like I'm like figuring myself out in terms of like how I want to go about every day. I want to be a good person. I want to be someone who I can be proud of at the end of the day. When all the noise is done, when the lights turn off and it's just me, I want to be proud of the man that I am. And I want to do everything that I can to be that. And it's an up and down journey. And I think everyone's going through it to some degree, but I feel like, that's what kind of like the college age of your life is kind of like discovering what path you want to put yourself on.
Absolutely.
And who you want to be. Because, it's easy to not look at the big picture right now and kind of like hyper focus on the small, minute things and be like, oh my God, this sucks, or I'm not going anywhere, or like I'm just spinning my wheels and not driving. But it's just like, you just gotta take a step back and think like, just take it easy, calm down, and just take it one day at a time.
Right. No, I think it's the perfect answer, especially like I'm like almost setting you up for failure, because I wouldn't. I think that resonates with me too. Like,
Yeah.
part of my purpose is
You're 25,
right,
like
trying to understand
yeah.
who you are and like becoming the best version of yourself. And one of the things that you said that I have been hitting home a lot, because I've just been doing a lot of like preparation for understanding what I want to talk about and like what my mission is you talked about ending the day being proud of yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Like, pride is a huge goal for me every day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think people are, so here's my theory. People are so driven on like, am I happy? Like, happiness is the key to life, right? Which is true. However, I think happiness is extremely volatile, because
Happiness is a spectrum.
right,
It comes and goes.
right, and with happiness, you can be having a great day, and then you get in a car accident, and like, or someone cuts you off, or whatever. Like, it's when I say it's volatile, that's what I mean, is that you're more prone to that happiness spectrum being impacted on a short-term basis. But like, for me, like, as of today, the way that I think about my days and like whether or not it was a good day is if I accomplished the things I set out. So like, did I do my 500 reps? Did I do my scheduled run? Did I do my work properly? Did I eat well? It's like, check, 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 check. I'm proud of myself. I'm prideful for the day. I won the day. That's a good day. Like,
exactly.
That's what I'm after. And then, like you said, it's like, it's hard to look at the big picture, but the big picture is really it's a combination of a bunch of small activities and small tasks, like micro activities that slowly compound into the big picture.
The microeconomic markets make up one
Right.
macro.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
The econ major.
Econ, baby.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, dude, we're gonna wrap this up. We have a gift for you. Just something that's a small token for the hard work that you're putting in.
Hell yeah, man. Thank you so much.
Keep that with you. You can rip it open. I don't think I've
Rubik's
explained,
Cube.
but the whole
this
idea
is really cool.
Yeah, the whole idea behind the Rubik's Cube is that you can take an idea of not understanding, like we've talked about, right? Like, I don't know how to swim, but I'm gonna push through that feeling of like, this sucks, I'm uncomfortable, and I will eventually figure it out, right? And like, that's the puzzle to life. And with the Rubik's Cube, anyone's capable if you're willing to just put the time in and be consistent and persevere through that moment and that opportunity where it's like, I can quit right now and just like give it up. But if you don't, you will eventually figure it out and solve it. And like, that's where
It's really cool,
the power of the Rubik's Cube came to me. It's like, this is a great symbol for just being consistent, pushing through that feeling of like how many times have you seen a Rubik's Cube in your life and you're like, I don't know how to fucking do that.
I've never solved a Rubik's Cube
right.
in my life.
But if you commit to something, I guarantee you can figure it out. And like, that's the beautiful thing, is like, if you just focus on a goal and you're consistent with it, you will be able to figure it out. And then you can inspire other people. And that's what's happened in my life with the Rubik's Cube is I figured it out. I'm at work, coworkers see it. These are smart people. They start figuring it out. Like I have 3 friends that I know how to do a Rubik's Cube now because they just saw me do it, and I'm like
That's
happy
sick.
to share it. And it's like it's an easy concept to grasp once you like understand the purpose behind it. So yeah, it's just a little token.
That's
You
sick,
can rip
man.
it open, you can go buy a new one
Appreciate
to
it.
learn, but
That's so
but you
cool.
deserve that because that's again it's a byproduct of all
Appreciate it.
the work you've been putting
Really
in.
cool
So,
labeling.
yeah, man. I
But-
think how can people reach you if they want to reach out? I know you have your running Instagram.
Yeah, Riley Wright Fitness on Instagram. Only real social account that I have.
You post like your workouts every day and things like that, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of work.
Thank you.
And yeah, I love that you're transparent with that. So
Yeah.
Riley Wright Fitness, RILEYWRIGHT.
Yep.
Fitness.
Fitness.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as you guys know, we're also on Instagram at The Painful Purpose. If you're watching this on YouTube, you guys can always hit the subscribe button to never miss an episode, and stay in the loop. If you're listening on Spotify, always leaving a rating is a great way to support us. And yeah, Riley, thank you again, man. Seriously.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on.
First guest
this is a
episode.
hell of a time.
Yeah. I hope we were able to share some value. And again, like one of my missions is building an opportunity for other people to see and like understand how we think, right? And like
Yeah.
you are someone who I think like an audience of like people our age could benefit from listening to, right?
Appreciate,
like how many
man.
kids are in college right now just trying to figure it out? And it's like I look at you and I'm like, dude, if I were your age, which is like I'm still basically your age, but if I were in college and I was trying to figure it out and I listened to you talk about how you think about things and how you're successful, that would definitely benefit me.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah,
That means a
absolutely,
lot.
man. Absolutely.
Means a
dude.
lot.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, bro. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
man. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.